Welcome back. Under Our Skin, you may remember this, a groundbreaking project our partners at the Seattle Times launched last year, tackling what we mean when we talk about race. It's a topic that has continued to dominate through the presidential election itself, and it continues even now. Now, the project itself featured open and honest answers about race with people from a wide variety of backgrounds. Tyrone Beeson was on the editorial team and recently penned this article to further the conversation. Black Like Me, it's time for a deeper conversation about race in America. The article features different members of the Seattle community, including several Seahawks. Tyrone is here now to kind of break down a little bit more of what you discovered. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's always good to talk to you.
It's great to see you again.
The big focus, both during and since the election, seems to be, how do I put this, talking. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of people talking on social media. There's a lot of debates in public. There's a lot of debates through the media itself. You said something really interesting in your article. You said it's what we're not saying to each other. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I think a lot of us are guided by illusions when it comes to race. You know, I think there's a significant percentage of Americans who believe that it just isn't a thing, you know, that it's not important to talk about it, or that it's not productive to bring up hardships from the past and discuss how they might be relevant to the way we live today. So it's very hard to even break the ice and to get people to agree on the terms of the discussion, or that there should be one at all. And so what I wanted to do was to suggest that instead of retreating from that, go deeper into it, be counterintuitive in a way, and really figure out what's going on the inside, the unspoken sort of impulses that guide our decisions, whether it's voting or where we choose to live, who we choose to date, that kind of who we hire, and really explore how the decisions that seem completely harmless in the moment might actually be driven by things that are much deeper than that. And I think we all have to participate in that. And certainly, white people who are a majority of the population have to engage in that as well.
And that's something that you dove really deep in with, especially one of the people that you interviewed. I thought this was really interesting, talking about white privilege, white fragility, I think was the term that she used. As a white person, we're just gonna, this is a safe space. We're all just gonna, we're just going for it. I read that and I got defensive at first, and then I read what she said and I thought, well, maybe there's some truth to this. Explain what white fragility is and why that's an important part of this conversation.
White fragility, and it's something that if you're African American or Muslim American, just to bring it into the present day, is something that a lot of us deal with who are people of color or from some place that might be represented as considered a minority group. But I think with white privilege and white fragility, they kind of go hand in hand. I think people who've enjoyed a lot of the freedoms that a lot of us have had to fight for and just to be a part of the American society don't appreciate how difficult it is for us to talk about race. I think a lot of white people get defensive because they don't want to be accused of being racist.
Right.
Or to confront things that might fly in the face of what they believe their lives to be, their values to be. And so it's a kind of defense mechanism that winds up shutting down conversation, because if people aren't willing to acknowledge that they're perhaps complicit or at least negligent when it comes to race, where do we go?
And making it a safe place where when we talk about it, we listen to each other. And I was really interested to read all of your interviews. You interviewed some burlesque performers, which I thought was fantastic. You also, I kind of got to the end of the article and realized you had spoken to some of the Seahawks players, Cliff Averill for one. And they talked about how, I think Cliff Averill was the one who said, look, when I'm on the football field, I'm number 56. I'm in a uniform, I'm under a helmet, I'm an athlete. But when I take the uniform off and go out into society, I am a black man. And there is a difference. What surprised you, or maybe didn't surprise you, about your conversation with these athletes?
I was really surprised at how much they'd been thinking about this already. Of course, some of the Seahawks had done things in the past, but they were incredibly thoughtful and introspective when it came to their position as sports stars and how that compared to their lives as African-American men. And what I was told by all of them is that you can never forget that there's a difference, and that if someone doesn't know that you are a Seahawk, you might be treated the same way that every other African-American might fear being treated as. And I think it's really important for us to understand that no matter how famous you get and how much money you have, that certain things don't change. And I think we have to really listen to people who are trying to explore that and understand how they fit into a society when we don't know who they are. And so, you know, these football players wear their skin all the time, but because they have helmets and jerseys on, we probably don't notice that as much. What I wanted to know was what they were thinking looking out at that crowd, signing autographs, being in the public eye as black men, and watching Black Lives Matter protests and what have you. And it was a really deep conversation with all three of them. It was great.
Tyrone Beeson, we could do this for 2 hours and still we wouldn't cover all of it. So I really appreciate you taking the time. You guys are doing something really interesting today at noon, a Facebook live chat that our viewers and anyone can join in.
Yes, absolutely, at noon. And the photographer who took some amazing images for this piece, for Black Like Me, and I will, Johnny Andrews, we will be talking to each other, basically, about being black journalists, about the story, and just have a free-flowing conversation and answer some questions as well. So everyone's welcome to join in.
And I love what you've been doing. Facebook Live, SeattleTimes.com to read the original article. Again, it gets back to the Under Our Skin project, where it's just really about a safe place where we can all talk and ask each other questions.
Yes, absolutely.
Tyrone, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime. Anytime. All right, Bill and Liz, over to you.